Hello and welcome to another edition of Word and Image, where I will be demoing some techniques to work with images in InDesign. Here we go. So first things first, when you guys are working with a document that has images in it, photographs, illustrations, that sort of thing, one of the things you might notice is that the image that you brought in is looking fuzzy when you first open up the document. That's because the InDesign program has a default setting for displaying information. This is because InDesign is built to handle large books with lots of images, that sort of thing. And in order to save processing power, it will dumb down how it or thumbnail images so that it doesn't have to use as much processing power when there's a lot of images involved. To fix that, go up to View in the menu, the main menu, and then go down to Display Performance and make sure you have high quality display on. Very good. And just to give you an idea of what that would look like, let's put it on Typical Display. And that's the difference. Typical display and View Display Performance high. So that makes a big difference. And that's one of the common frustrations of new users of InDesign is that they have high resolution images that they bring in and they don't look good on the page. There's a few other reasons that an image might not look good on the page that might not have to do with display performance settings. We will see if we can cover those shortly. All right. So the professional InDesign document and images are linked or embedded in the actual document. We'll talk about how to do that and what a linked image is shortly. For all of our projects in this class, we're going to use linked images. We'll also discuss what an embedded image is. This is a professional workflow that we're going for, and InDesign is built in order for you to create imagery or bring imagery in, and then to have the flexibility to be continuously working on the imagery. So say you have an image in Photoshop an illustration that you've been working on, and you have a stage of it, and you import it as a linked image into InDesign, set it up, compose it, have it where you want on the page. And as a linked image, that means that if you decide you want to make an edit to that linked image in Photoshop, say you want to change a color or some layer, you want to change a layer in a Photoshop file or something like that, you can simply go to that Photoshop file, make the edit, and then InDesign will be aware of that edit and will update either manually or automatically can update the artwork in InDesign, which simplifies your life in the long run because you don't have to run back and forth and re-import images manually because it's also very good for version control so that you have one file that's your image file and you're bringing that in and changing things and you won't have that a chance of any danger happening or any human error where you have an old version of an image in your InDesign document and a newer one that you've been working on the outside and it doesn't get updated in InDesign. So please use linked images. It's the safest way to go about it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that going forward. All right, so how do you link an image? Okay, it's very simple. There are two ways to bring images in, linked images. First off is to have an actual frame that you've drawn with the frame tool. In this case, you're going to be using the frame tool that has the crisscross in it. Let's hit the W so we can see. You can see there's a cross through this image. Let's hide some of those guidelines. You'll see that there's a cross in this box. That is different than the shape tool, which should make boxes that just simply have colors or nothing in them. You want to use a rectangle frame tool to create a frame that is meant to contain something. All right, so let's go and grab that frame, go up to File, down to Place, right up here, and it's Command D for the quick way to get at it, and you can place it, and we will go and find our fruit bowls. Fruit bowl. What are we looking for? We're looking for fruit bowl, I believe, fruit bowls. All right. Let's see if we can just track it down, or maybe we just go straight into my folder, class materials, and presentation demo. Fruit bowl. There we go. Okay. There we go. That's one way of getting at your bringing your image in. Another way to bring in an image is simply to not have an object selected and go to, again, Place, Command D, go find that image you want to bring in, click on it, and open. And you'll see that it preloads your cursor with the image in question. If you simply click, it's going to put it in at full size. If you want to have more control over that, you can click and drag, and it will make a box, a frame for it. They're always going to be in a frame, but it'll make a sized frame that can keep it contained. All right, so those are the two ways to bring in or place a linked image. All right, so when you're working with images, you're going to become familiar with the Layers panel. So let's get to the Layers panel. So my Layers panel is set up on the side here. I like to have, I'm sorry, we're not doing layers in panel, duh. Links panel, pardon me. Links, all right, there we go. The links panel right here will tell you all of the images that are linked or embedded in your document. And it will give you the status of those images. It'll tell you what pages they're on. And it will give you quick links to get to those images if you want to find those images. So let's talk a little bit about reading what's going on the top of the links panel. You see the names of all your images. This has got a little chevron. That means that there is 3, in this case, it says 3 versions of the fruit bowl in this document. So if you click on that chevron, it'll open it up and show you where all the what pages they're on. The page numbers here are highlighted hyperlinks that if you double click on or click on, it will take you directly to the image in question and select it. So that can be very useful. The only thing to notice is that when it's a letter instead of a number, that means that it's somewhere, if it's a PB, that means it's on the pasteboard someplace. And I believe this B means that it's in a master pages, which we're not going to cover. So there are some other curveballs that could be thrown at you from there. There are some other icons down here to be aware of, but let's talk about the status bar. This column is about status. If the status is blank, here, that means the image is linked and happy. Everything's going well with that image. If it is this gray box, that means that it is an embedded image. An embedded image was once a linked image, but there is a way in the links panel to tell it to permanently insert it in the document. So it's always in the document and it travels with the document. However, it makes the document much larger than it needs to be if it has a lot of them. And again, you don't have that useful element where you can access it if you need to update it and have it linked and then update it from Photoshop or Procreate or whatever program you're working in. The reason I use an embedded image often is if I have a logo that is going to be permanently in an ad or something that I'm making a template for. And so the logo is always supposed to be there. And so I want to have the logo file always appear in there, or some other graphic that I know is always going to appear in my magazine design or something to that effect. I might embed it. But again, if it's on multiple pages and you're embedding it that way, it's going to make your document much larger, and it's going to perhaps affect performance. So I don't use it very often. These guys, we have a red stop sign and we have a yellow yield sign. Those mean that those images have trouble, and I'll show you how to fix that shortly. But just know that red means that it's missing. That image is missing. InDesign does not know where it is on your hard drive. And if it's a yield sign, that means alert. The file has been updated. This linked file has been updated outside of InDesign and needs to be updated to be showing you the most current version of that image. Okay, let's keep moving. All right, and keep on moving. There we go. So the links panel, I'm going to hit the W. The links panel, I'm going to hit the W so we can see that's the same, of course, as using the preview here. But I'm using the links panel. Huh, why is that grayed out? Very strange. The links panel, let's open out. We got that guy here. Here's some images with those problems. You'll see that my actual links image, not the image I was using on my last page, this is the actual links image. And you can see I have two that are missing, and I have one that needs to be has apparently been updated. And I can find those guys. Let's see, this is page 6. So I'm going to select the one that's missing, and that's this guy. And you see that in the corner, when we're in preview, or normal view rather, I can actually see that there is a little thing warning me that image is missing. And in this guy, you can see a little yield sign. If I get really close, you'll see that the artwork is really grainy. This is one of the things that could cause an image on your page to look bad, to look pixelated, besides the display performance settings. InDesign is confused, and it is showing you a thumbnail version because it doesn't have direct access to the original image, and all it has is a placeholder image for you. So how do we fix that? Well, let's go here. Let's look at the name of it is Apple isolated.jpg. Hopefully it is on the computer that we're using. If it's not on the computer we're using, then we have a real problem. So let's see, I will click on that, or I can click on this. Let's use the links panel. I'm going to double click, and it's going to open up a finder. And let's see if we can find something called, gee whiz, Apple isolated, wasn't it? Isolated. All right, it is on the computer, so you can click it. These are all the same one, and I'll open it, and it hopefully will replace it. Let's see, it should have updated. Let's try that Apple. Oh, there we go. All right, so I did that by clicking the corner. Now it's got a happy little linked sign in the corner. That means that it is happy and linked. And the red is gone. The red stop sign is gone. All right, what is going on with this guy? Well, this guy is orange PSD, so it knows where it is. Oh, by the way, another reason why your file might be confused is if you've done something like change the name, the file name, that can also confuse InDesign. So, don't change file names of your original illustrations files willy-nilly, because that can confuse InDesign. All right, what's going on with this one? It has been edited. I double click on it. Oh, it has been edited. So this is the latest version. Happy little guy in the corner here with the linked chain links, and we're good to go. These guys are ready to print. All right, nice and crisp and clean. All right, let's get a little bit bigger. So the links panel info, that's down here. If it isn't opened, I believe you'll have to open it up here. Link options. Oh no, you open it down here. You can close it. If it's not open for you, this little chevron or arrow opens it up. It gets a little fussy in the corner here when I've got it. Oh, it's getting very fussy. Let's see here. Let's bring it up. Oh, yeah. So to move that up, you can grab this gray line and move it up so we go there. That means that, let's say we go back to that Apple image, and we can use this information to find out things about our image. The things I want you guys to be aware of with these from the linked info, there's a lot of stuff here, but really, I mean, you might want to know what this, how much it's been scaled, but really the thing I use it for the most for is to check the actual PPI and the effective PPI, which we'll talk about shortly with regards to resolution. So I check those two, and I also might check to make sure its status is okay. And yeah, is that all I use it for? Primarily, I use it for those two guys. So let's see what effective PPI and actual PPI is about. All right, so let's talk about pixels per inch and dots per inch. There are two ways of measuring the resolution of your images. Pixels per inch, or PPI, is what you're going to see in most, if not all, of your Adobe programs. This is for technically for digital illustrations or digital images and photos, and it is describing how many pixels are fit into an inch of an actual inch of the image, versus dots per inch, which is more of a printing measurement for how many dots in a halftone fit in an inch of an actual photo that is printed on a page, or an illustration that's printed on a page. You really don't need to know both, but you need PPI will get you very far, and it's pretty much interchangeable in a lot of programs when it comes to resolution. So it'll say PPI, let's use PPI. And to know what we're looking for professional illustrations and imagery, we're looking for a screen resolution. If it's only going to appear on a screen for a web page, or for a document that's never going to be printed, then the resolution is 72 PPI at full size, 100% size. The print resolution, which is what we're shooting for our illustrations, because I want you guys to print these, is 300 PPI, and that is at 100% size, full size. So it's a 4-inch by 4-inch illustration. It will be 300 PPI at 4 inches by 4 inches in your document. So to give you an idea of the difference in that, let's get close to these guys. This guy is 600 or 300 DPI, I believe. And let's just get really close to these guys, and you can see that the difference is pretty startling. This is the 72 PPI, and this is the 300, and you can see much crisper edges, much cleaner detail. Again, it would be overkill for a web page, but for printing, that would be the resolution you want to get. All right. So yeah, and what I want you guys to be aware of is that scaling with regards to resolution affects the resolution. So if you have something that is a certain resolution at full size, if you make it bigger or smaller, if you have your illustration, you scan it in at full size at 300 DPI or PPI, and then you make it smaller or larger, it's going to actually change the effective resolution, or the effective PPI, that thing here I was showing you in the links panel, the actual PPI and the effective PPI. So let's look at this. This one again is ready for use on a screen, and it is 72 PPI at full size. If I was to take this and then go and try and print this slide in the printers at the lab, it would look pretty awful. It would be pretty the contours would look pretty shaky and pixelated. The detail would also be shaky and pixelated. It's not great. That is the resolution it was intended to use at full size. But let's say I wanted to print this, then I would have to physically make it smaller. This small, actually, 24% of it in size will actually raise. If I click on there, you'll see that the original PPI here, if you can see it on the screen, is 72. Now the effective PPI, because I have scaled it down to 24%, is now 300 DPI, and this would be print ready and ready to print. However, you are going to be in some trouble if you did your illustration at full size at 72, and then you realize you have to print it. And in order for it to be 300 PPI, it has to be this big. You cannot really fix that anyway easily. You will probably have to end up redoing the illustration at full size, at full 300 DPI. So it's very important as a craft issue to keep track of your PPI. Notice also that this image, if I make it larger, let's go up and go to, let's get this guy back in here. There we go. If I go into object, I'm sorry, no, I don't have to go anywhere. I just have to select my image and then go into the control panel and play around with the scale and make it, actually, it wasn't full size. It was, that's, all right, so that's full size right there. It was just a tiny bit smaller, which would have raised its resolution. But let's say I really blew it out. I take an image and I want to scale it up. I want to scale it up. Well, notice it's going, it's originally 72. I've made it 124% of the size, and now it is at 58, and it's going to look even more awful or awfuler when we print it to on a piece of paper. So keep in mind that you can't willy-nilly scale images up without losing resolution. And if your resolution is not 300 at 100% size, then you're going to end up having to scale it down in order to raise the resolution. And that's an important, craft note to make when you guys are doing your final art. You got to really keep an eye on your resolution. All right. Let's see. Great. Oh, all right. So let's talk about this chicken a little bit more. Here's a little trick, by the way, in InDesign. If you have a transparent illustration from another program like Procreate or Photoshop, then you can have it overlay other objects in your document. This is saved. It's saved as a PSD, a native PSD file or Photoshop file. So you know it's a native Photoshop file because it has the .psd at the end. Native Photoshop files that have transparency around them bring the transparency into InDesign. They play nicely together. Let's open this up in the other program. And again, here's another nice trick. Because it is a linked file, I can immediately open up this document by going to this little pencil here while it's selected and open it as an original. And it will open it up in my Photoshop program, and I could make some edits or whatnot, but I just wanted to show you how I have silhouetted it from the original. The original was on a background, then I used my selection tools to silhouette it with a mask, and now it has got a nice, hopefully clean edge on the and a transparency that is coming through. All right, I'm not going to make any edits to this because it's good to go, and I'm just going to close it out. But let's make an edit just so you know. Let's make a big edit. So we'll play around with the color. Let's see here. We'll turn this off so it's going to change the color, and we'll hit save. And then we're going to go and see what happens here. It should update automatically. Oh, but it didn't. Okay, well, that's mildly annoying, but I've got it 3 times in here. So if I just click the top one, it's in a little folder of how many times I'm using this particular guy. If I double click him, it updates it and makes him washed out in color, because that's what I did for a change. All right, so that is how you could do a layering effect over a title or something like that. So you might consider doing that when you bring in an image, either a traditional image or a digital image, to put it on a transparent layer and remove the background so that you have some flexibility with your spot illustrations when you're laying things out in your flyers and posters and whatnot. All right. All right, the final step, I believe, for InDesign for this demo is to cover the concept of packaging Adobe InDesign files. InDesign files with these linked images and the fonts that you might be bringing that are native to your computer, as opposed to fonts that you're using from Adobe Fonts or some cloud service. An InDesign document has collected all of these software that makes the fonts and images that make up that are brought in as placed objects, and those are outside of the program if you've created it correctly. They are on your hard drive somewhere around, and you need to, when you want to move this document from one computer to another computer or submit it to me, then you need to package it. It's a very important concept, especially when you're working on a lab computer and you want to make sure you bring everything with you to when you leave for the day. You want to make sure that you've got everything that you were putting into your document. So let's do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to package this document we're using right now with all of this imagery in it and whatnot, and the fonts. So very simply, I will first check down here to make sure there are no errors. This border on the bottom has a little guy here, and there's a green mark there. If it was red, and it would say errors, and then you can open up the pre-flight panel, and it will actually tell you what errors you have. Right now, no errors, so I'm great. If there were errors, it would say, oh, there's a problem with an image or a missing image on this page or something like that. It will do a little bit of the work for you. All right. Some errors you don't have to worry about. You know, if you know what they are, don't let it stop you from packaging. But sometimes it can save your rear end. All right, we're good. Very simply, just go to the file up menu and go to package at the bottom here, and it'll open up this package panel, and it'll ask you some questions. It's going to complain that there are some certain file types of color file types in here, but don't worry about that. I'm going to hit package. I'm going to say yep, you'll save it. Let's save it. And then it's going to ask you where you want to save it. Let's keep it simple. I'm going to save it on the desktop. That's if you're working on the lab's computers, the desktop is the safest place to keep track of things. And I'll title it. I'm just going to call it the same name that it was. And I don't touch any of this stuff down here. It's going to make a PDF for me. I don't mess with any of these defaults. So just hit package. And there it goes. And it might take a while. If it's a big project, it might take a while, but it is good, and it has done it. So let's go to the desktop, see if we can find that working with image. That's what it was called. And let's look at what this looks like. So let's open it up. All right. It is a folder. This is the folder that you would be submitting to me as a final, or taking from this computer to your home computer. So you'd upload it to your drive. In it, you're going to find a few folders, and the actual document, which is an the actual document, which is an INDD document. You're going to find another document which is named the same, except it ends in IDML. This is a version of your original that is dumbed down a little bit in order to be able to be opened by older versions of InDesign if someone's using an older version of InDesign. The drawback can be that if you're using any new techniques in the InDesign document, they might not translate, and they might get nerfed or removed completely from when you open it up in an older version. But it is useful if you can only have an older version available to you. The other thing it has made for me, it has made me a PDF, a high resolution PDF for it. So I've got a PDF, which when you guys are submitting to me homework, take this guy and make a copy. I'm going to drag it out, holding down the Option key, make a copy of it. And then the last step for you guys to keep things simple when you're uploading this folder, it can get messy if you upload a folder to Google Classroom. And sometimes it can get messy uploading it to a Google Drive. So what I like to do is keep it in one archived file type that will not get pulled apart and scattered in Google Docs or in Google Drive or in Google Classroom. So to do that, we want to compress it, and that would be go up to File, select the folder, go up to File, go to Compress, hit Compress, and it will think about it, and then it makes this guy. This is what you would upload to me along with a PDF version so that we can see the artwork without having to open up the archive. Once you've got the archive, you can double click on it, download it, and double click on it on a new computer, and it will open up. Let's do that. Double click, and it opens up, and there's the folder again, and it's all its loose bits are right in there. But for the purpose of travel, this is much more safe and less messy. So we're going to grab those two guys and then upload those to either your drive, or in the case of submitting your files to me, you would upload that to Google Classroom. And remember, of course, also to name always name your files with your last name first. Okay, that's what I wanted to cover. If you have any questions, please contact me. Thanks for your attention and patience, and I hope this was helpful. Have a great rest of your day.